It happened in the summer of my second year of high school. Even now, thinking back on it makes my heart triple with emotion. A new boy transferred into our class. His name was Lu Zijian. He was tall with sun-kissed, healthy-looking skin. When he smiled, the corners of his mouth curved up just slightly with a hint of playfulness. The homeroom teacher seated him diagonally behind me, saying that as class academic monitor, I should help him adjust to the new environment. I turned my head to look at him, and he happened to be looking back at me, as if they held stars. I quickly turned away, my heart inexplicably beating a little faster. The first few days, we barely interacted. Then one math class, the teacher went over an especially difficult function problem. I filled my notebook with dense notes. When the bell rang for break, I let out a long sigh of relief. Your notes are really detailed. Could I borrow them? A voice came from behind me, low and clean. I turned around. Lu Zijian was looking at me with a faint smile. I handed over my notebook and accidentally brushed my fingertip against the back of his hand. It felt like an electric shock. I quickly pulled my hand back, my ears burning hot. He didn't seem to notice. He took a notebook and flipped through it seriously. Sunlight slanted in through the window, falling on his profile and tracing a beautiful outline of light and shadow. After that, he often borrowed my notes and occasionally asked me questions about assignments. I found myself looking forward to those few minutes between classes, looking forward to the light breeze that came with him, looking forward to the way his eyes curved when he said, but I didn't dare think too much about it. After all, he was new. Maybe he just saw me as an ordinary classmate. The turning point came once well during afternoon. The last class of the day was PE. During free time, I sat by the edge of the field chatting with my desk mate, Lin Zhaoran. Lu Zijian was playing basketball with some other boys. He looked right on the court, his movements were clean and sharp. Every time he made a shot, a few girls nearby would whisper among themselves, "That Lu Zijian." Lin Zhaoran leaned in and lowered her voice. I heard he was on the basketball team back where he used to live. He's pretty good looking too, don't you think? He's alright. Trying to sound indifferent, but my eyes kept drifting toward the court. Suddenly, a basketball flew toward us. It wasn't coming fast, but I was distracted and didn't react at all. Just as the ball was about to hit me, a hand reached out and caught it steadily. I looked up. Lu Zijian had run over without me noticing. He was breathing lightly, his damp hair sticking to his forehead. He looked down at me, his brow furrowed slightly. "You okay? What were you spacing out for?" "I'm fine," I stammered, feeling certain my face had turned as red as a boiled shrimp. He tucked the ball under his arm and naturally extended his other hand toward me. I hesitated for a moment and reached out and placed my hand in his. He held it, his palm warm and strong, and after pulling me up, he didn't let go immediately. Instead, he held on for an extra 2 seconds. "Why are your hands so cold?" he asked, not very loudly, but Lin Zhaoran heard him clearly and covered her mouth, giggling. "I've just always been this way," I said, pulling my hand back. My heart was racing so fast it felt like it might jump out of my chest. He murmured a no, turned, and jogged back toward the court. After a couple of steps, he looked back at me and smiled. That smile, I remember it so clearly even now. It was like the afternoon sun in summer, bright and gentle. That night, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. My mind was filled with images from the afternoon, the way he'd run over to catch the ball, the warmth of his hand when he held mine, the smile he'd given me when he looked back. I buried my face in my pillow, feeling as though something was quietly sprouting inside. When I got to class the next day, I found a bottle of warm milk on my desk. Beside it was a note that read, "Drink something warm. Then your hands won't be cold anymore, Lu Zijian." The handwriting wasn't particularly nice, but the characters were written carefully, stroke by stroke. I folded the note, packed it into my pocket, then twisted open the milk bottle and took small sips, spreading from my throat all the way to my stomach. My whole body felt soft and fuzzy. Who gave you that?" Lin Zhaoran leaned in, her face full of gossip. "Is it that someone?" "Don't talk nonsense." I glared at her, but the corners of my mouth wouldn't stay down. From that day on, Lu Zijian left a bottle of warm milk on my desk every morning. Sometimes there was also a piece of chocolate or a candy. When I asked him why he did it, he just shrugged and said no particular reason. But I knew the school convenience store didn't open until 7:30, and he had to arrive early to buy warm milk. A few times, I got to school especially early and found him already sitting in his seat, 2 bottles of milk on his desk, one for me, one for himself. Our relationship became very subtle during that time. In class, I could feel his gaze on my back. That feeling of being watched was both nervous-making and comforting. Sometimes when I turned to talk to the people behind me, my eyes would meet his. He would always freeze for a second, then casually look away, pretending to stare out the window, but I noticed that the tips of his ears would quietly turn red. One self-study period, the classroom was very quiet, with only the soft sound of pens scratching across paper. I was focused on a problem when I felt someone gently poke my back. I turned around. Luzagen handed me a folded note. I took it, my heart pounding, and carefully unfolded it. On it was written, "How do you solve this? I've been looking at it for ages and can't figure it out." Although it was a physics problem, I picked up my pen, wrote out the steps in detail on the back of the note, and handed it back. After a while, the note came back again. Besides the words "thank you," there was an extra line of small writing: "You look really pretty with your hair up today." My face instantly flushed. I stared at that line for several seconds, unsure whether I should reply. I wrote, "Focus on your work. No daydreaming." But after the period, I drew a tiny smiling face. The note went back and forth between us for the entire self-study period, the content slowly shifting from studying to casual chat. He asked me what kind of music I liked, what I usually did on weekends. I told him I liked J-Chu and often went to the library on Saturdays. He said he liked J-Chu too, and that his best song was Calm and Jasmine Orient. I replied that he should sing it for me sometime. He said okay sometime for sure. It was a hard feeling to describe. It was like there was an invisible thread between us, a gentle tug, and the other could feel it. We didn't need to say anything special, just knowing the other person was looking at you, thinking about you, made your heart feel full. 3. What truly changed our relationship was that Friday night. The school organized a movie screening in the auditorium. An old film was playing. Wen Zhaoran and I had agreed to go together, but she was called home for dinner at the last minute, leaving me on my own. When I got to the auditorium, quite a few people were already there. I found a seat near the back and put my bag on the chair next to me to save it. Just as the movie was about to start, someone stopped beside me. "Is this seat taken?" There was a Jen's voice. I looked up. He was standing there with his backpack on. In the dim light, I couldn't quite read his expression, but I could tell he was smiling. "No, go ahead." I picked up my bag and put it under my feet. He sat down next to me with one arm rest between us. The movie began, and the lights went off, leaving only the flickering glow of the screen. I pretended to watch intently, but I wasn't taking in a thing. All my attention was on the person to my right. I could smell the faint scent of his laundry detergent, mixed with a hint of sweat. Together, it wasn't unpleasant at all. Instead, it made me feel grounded. About halfway through, he suddenly leaned toward me and asked in a low voice, "Are you cold? They've got the AC on pretty high." I was actually a bit cold. I was wearing a short-sleeved shirt, and goosebumps had risen on my arms. I shook my head and said, "I'm cold." After a moment, I felt a jacket gently draped over my shoulders. I turned my head. He had taken off his school uniform jacket and put it on me, leaving himself in just a thin t-shirt. "You wear it." "I'm not cold." I tried to give it back. He pressed down on my shoulder gently but firmly. "Keep it on. Don't catch a cold." His hand stayed on my shoulder for maybe 2 seconds before he pulled it back, but those 2 seconds felt stretched out impossibly long. I could feel the warmth of his palm seeping through my clothes and into my skin. My whole body went stiff. "Thank you," I whispered, pulling the jacket tighter around me. It smelled like him, clean, warm, like a blanket that had been hung out in the sun. I didn't watch a single second of the rest of the movie. My mind was a mess. I stole a glance at him. His profile flickered in the light from the screen, bright, then dark, then bright again. His jawline was beautiful, his lashes long, falling like little fans when he blinked. As if sensing my gaze, he turned his head. Our eyes met in the dimness. Either of us looked away first. Air seemed to freeze. Everything around us fell far away. The sound of the movie, the whispers of other people. I couldn't hear any of it. All I could hear was my own heartbeat. Thump, 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 each beat heavier than the last. He slowly leaned a little closer. I instinctively held my breath. He was so close now that I could see the reflection of the screen in his eyes. "You have something on your face," he said, his voice so low it seemed to come from the back of his throat. He reached out and gently touched my cheek with his fingertip, as if brushing something away. The pad of his finger was a little rough. It tickled against my skin, and I couldn't help but flinch. "Just kidding." He smiled, pulled his hand back, and leaned into his seat again, as if nothing had happened. My heart was pounding so fast it felt like it might explode. My cheeks were burning hot enough to fry an egg, but there was no menace in it. I couldn't keep the corners of my mouth from turning up. When the movie ended and the lights came on, I quickly handed his jacket back to him and busied myself gathering my things. He took the jacket but didn't put it on right away. Instead, he folded it and draped it over his arm. "I'll walk you back to your dorm," he said. His tone wasn't a question, it was a statement. We walked side by side along the campus path. The two shadows stayed close together, sometimes overlapping like two people holding hands. A few times, the backs of our hands accidentally brushed. Each time, I flinched away as if burned. But he didn't flinch the next time it happened. He didn't move away at all. When we reached my dorm building, I stopped and turned to face him. "Here we are. Thanks for walking me back." "Yeah?" He stood under the street wide, looking at me as if he wanted to say something but wasn't sure how. "What is it?" "Nothing. Good night." "Good night." I turned and walked through the dormitory gate. After a few steps, I couldn't help but look back. He was still standing there, his shadow stretched along by the lamp. When he saw me look back, he waved. That image, the boy standing in the warm yellow light, waving goodbye, the night behind him soft as a dream, stayed with me. I turned back around and hurried up the stairs, my heart thumping, a smile I couldn't hide all over my face. For心吧不得相信. That weekend, I drifted through everything in a daze. No matter what I was doing, I kept getting distracted, my mind full of him. When I got to class on Monday morning, I found not only the usual bottle of warm milk on my desk, but also a small bag of bread. "Have you eaten breakfast?" Lu Zichen's voice came from behind me. I shook my head. He pointed at the bread and said, "Then eat it. Don't be hungry." I opened the bag and took a bite. It was red bean flavored, sweet and soft. How did he know I liked red bean bread? I'd never told him. "How did you know I like red bean?" I turned and asked him. He was looking at a book and didn't lift his head. "Just a guess." "Liar." Finally, he looked up at me, his eyes smiling. "Last time at the cafeteria, when you bought buns, you always took the red bean ones, I noticed." I was stunned. I hadn't even noticed that habit in myself. But he had. "You watch me?" I asked quietly. "It's not watching." He paused as if choosing his words carefully. "It's I can't help looking at you." He said it very softly, but every word landed clearly in my ears. My face turned bright red. I quickly turned back around and pretended to read, my heart racing uncontrollably. I heard him laugh softly, not mockingly, but the kind of laugh that says, "I know you're embarrassed." That afternoon, the last class was homeroom. My teacher had each of us write a wish on a slip of paper to put in a wish bottle that we would open after graduation. People wrote all sorts of things. Some wanted to be first in the grade. Some wanted to go to college in Beijing. On my slip of paper, I wrote, "I hope I can drink corn milk every day." Even I thought it was funny. As I folded it and put it in the bottle, I accidentally bumped Lu Zichen's arm. He looked down at me, and I quickly pulled my hand back, pretending nothing had happened. After homeroom, he secretly slipped me a note. It said, "What did you wish for?" I wrote back. "Then let me guess." Another note came. "Does it have something to do with milk?" I paused, then looked up at him. He was looking at me with a smile, one that had a kind of I know everything smugness to it. I crumpled the note into a ball and stuffed it in my pocket. "Why do you care what I wrote?" And I noticed the smile never left his lips, as if he'd found something precious. 5. As days went by, we grew closer and closer, so close that people around us, every time we appeared in the classroom at the same time, someone would cough meaningfully, or someone would say loudly, "Ah, what a perfect match." Each time I heard something like that, I pretended not to hear, but inside, I was as sweet as if I'd eaten honey. Once during PE, during free time, Ben Zhaoran pulled me aside and asked, "So what's going on with you and Lu Zichen? Are you two together or not?" "No, we're just ordinary classmates," I said, keeping my head down. "Come on." She rolled her eyes. "Ordinary classmates buy you milk every day. Ordinary classmates pass notes back and forth, or an entire self-study period. Ordinary classmates walk you to your dorm and can't bear to leave." Who said he couldn't bear to leave? I got flustered. I saw it with my own eyes. Last time he stood downstairs for ages before walking away. I watched from the window, clear as day. I didn't say anything, but my heart started racing. Did he really stand there, unwilling to leave after I went upstairs? The thought made me feel light and airy. After school, I was waiting at the bus stop when Lu Zichen came up and stood next to me. "Why aren't you riding your bike today?" I asked. He usually rode his bike to and from school. "Flat tire." I said and didn't say anything more. When the bus came, I got on unnoticed. He got on too. "Isn't your house in the other direction?" I asked, puzzled. "I'm going to my grandmother's today." "It's on the way," he said. The bus was crowded. We were squeezed toward the back, standing face to face. Every time the bus braked, I lurched forward, and each time he reached out to steady my shoulders, gentle, steady. Once the bus stopped so suddenly that I fell right into him, my forehead hitting his chest. Sorry. I tried to step back, but there were people behind me, and I couldn't move. It's okay. He looked down at me, one arm loosely around my waist, the other holding the overhead strap. His arm rested lightly on my waist, not squeezing, but not letting go either. I could feel the warmth of his palm through my thin school uniform. My whole body went rigid. I didn't dare move. His chin rested on the top of my head, and his breath brushed softly through my hair, tickling me. We stayed like that for maybe 3 or 4 bus stops. Neither of us spoke. Neither of us moved. The bus was loud, but to me, the whole world had gone quiet except for 2 heartbeats, one overlapping the other. When I got off the bus, I kept my head down and walked quickly, not daring to look at him. See you tomorrow, he said behind me. Yeah, see you tomorrow. I quickened my pace and didn't look back. Not because I didn't want to, but because I was afraid that if I did, he'd see my face, red as a tomato. That night, I lay in bed, tossing and turning, replaying that moment over and over, the feeling of his arm around my waist, the weight of his chin on my head, the tickle of his breath in my hair. I hugged my pillow and buried my face in it, my heart pounding so fast I couldn't sleep. I think I like him. No, not think, I was sure. I like Lucian. I like the warm note he puts on my desk every morning. I like the little notes he sends me during self-study. I like the light in his eyes when he looks at me. I like the serious expression on his face when he says, I can't help looking at you. I like the comforting warmth of his arm around my waist. That feeling of liking him was like summer vines growing wild, choking me, yet impossible to break free from. Here is the continuation of the English translation, picking up from chapter 666. But liking someone inevitably comes with the fear of losing them. In the second semester of my junior year, rumors started spreading around the grade that Lucian had gotten close to the class beauty from the neighboring class. People said they'd eaten together in the cafeteria, that he carried her bag for her. When those whispers reached my ears, I pretended not to care, but something inside me twisted painfully. For the next few days I deliberately ignored him. When he passed me a note, I didn't take it. When he spoke to me, I pretended not to hear. The milk he left on my desk went untouched. I didn't know what kind of mood I was in, but I couldn't help it. Friday afternoon's last class was PE. I didn't go to the field. I hid alone in the classroom, pretending to do homework. Then, without warning, tears started falling drop by drop onto my workbook, pouring the ink. I didn't even know why I was crying. He wasn't my boyfriend. He could get close to whomever he wanted. What right did I have to be angry? But my heart ached as if someone were pricking it with a needle. Again and again. What are you doing here? Lucian's voice suddenly came from the doorway. I was so startled that I quickly wiped my tears with the back of my hand. But it was too late. He walked over, saw the tear stains on my face, and his brow furrowed deeply. What's wrong? Who upset you? He sat down next to me, his voice tense. I turned my head away, looking at him. What went he? We're in a classroom. He gently turned me by the shoulder to face him. Tell me what happened. I bit my lip and stayed silent. But more tears fell despite myself. He looked at me, his eyes full of concern. Helplessly, he reached out and wiped my tears with his thumb, his fingertip brushing lightly across my cheek. His touch was as gentle as if he were handling something fragile. Did someone bully you? His voice was low with a seriousness I'd never heard before. No, I sniffled and mood. If you're in a bad mood, why are you avoiding me? He said. You've been ignoring me for days. You won't drink the milk. You won't reply to my notes. What did I do wrong? I opened my mouth. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm overthinking things. But what came out instead wasn't. Aren't you really close with that girl from the other class? Go find her. The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted obvious enough to sound like jealousy. He froze for a moment, then laughed. Not a mocking laugh, one of sudden understanding. Something lit up in his eyes. You mean Lin Wei? She's my cousin. I blinked. She's my cousin. My mom asked me to look after her at school. I switched lost her meal card, so I took her to the cafeteria and swiped my card for her. I carried her bag because she twisted her ankle. He explained it all word by word, very seriously. That's it. Then why didn't you say so earlier? My voice came out muffled. You didn't ask. Amusement and the kind of tenderness I couldn't name in his eyes. Besides, who's jealous? I pushed at him. Don't talk nonsense. He didn't dodge. Instead, he reached out and took my hand. His hand was big, wrapping entirely around mine, warm and firm. He looked into my eyes, his voice softening. Now that I've explained everything, will you stop crying? I'm not crying. I stubbornly turned my head away, but I didn't pull my hand back. He held my hand, his thumb gently stroking the back of it. The motion was slow and light, as if he were soothing a frightened animal. The classroom was silent except for the distant noise from the sports ground far away, like sounds from another world. Suwon, he suddenly said my name, his voice so low it seemed to come from deep in his throat. I like you. When those 4 words came out, sunlight happened to stream through the window, falling on his face. He looked at me, his eyes bright with a sincerity that made it hard to look directly at him. My mind went blank with a buzzing sound. What did you say? I thought I'd misheard. I said I like you. He said it again, a little louder this time, his tone more certain. I've liked you since my very first day here. At one glance back from you I thought, this girl is really pretty. Then I borrowed your notebook, saw how neat your handwriting was, and I wanted to talk to you more. I bought you milk because I wanted you to notice me more. I passed you notes during self-study because I wanted to say more to you. I walked you to your dorm because I wanted to spend more with you. When I said I can't help looking at you, I wasn't lying. I really can't help it. He spoke so much in one breath, as if pouring out every unspoken feeling from all those days. As I listened, tears started falling again, but this time, they weren't sad tears. They were happy tears, the kind that come when your heart is so full it overflows through your eyes. Why are you crying again? He panicked, reaching to wipe my tears. Did I say something wrong? I shook my head, sniffled, looked at him, and said in a voice barely above a whisper, I like you too. What he hadn't heard. He leaned in a little. I said my courage and spoke a little louder. I've liked you since the day you bought me that first bottle of milk. He froze, then a smile spread across his face, slowly, like a flower blooming in spring. It was such a beautiful smile, so beautiful that later, whenever I thought of him, it was the first image that came to mind. A boy sitting in a sunlit classroom, looking at the girl he liked, smiling like a child who had just received the best gift in the world. So, what now? He looked at me with a hint of uncertainty, a touch of careful hope in his eyes. Will you be my girlfriend? I didn't answer with words. Instead, I turned my hand over and laced my fingers through his. He looked down at our intertwined hands, then back up at me. His eyes sparkled, and the smile at the corners of his mouth just wouldn't go away. Outside, the sun shone brightly. The noise from the sports ground drifted over, distant and muffled. Inside the classroom, just the 2 of us sat, hand in hand, neither willing to let go first. 7. 5 after we got together didn't seem much different from before, yet everything had changed. He still bought me warm milk every morning, still passed me notes during self-study, still walked me to my dorm and stood downstairs for a long time before leaving. But everything felt different now. When our hands touched, we didn't have to pretend it was an accident. When our eyes met, we didn't have to look away in panic. When we spoke, we didn't have to hide our feelings anymore. It was as if a thin sheet of paper had been separating us, and now that it was torn away, we could finally breathe. One weekend, we agreed to meet at the library. When I arrived, he was already there, having saved a seat by the window. 2 cups of milk tea sat on the table. For you, as I say, 30% sugar. He pushed 1 cup toward me. How do you know I take 30% sugar? I sat down surprised. I saw it last time you ordered milk tea, as if it wasn't worth mentioning. Cool, sweet all the way to my heart. Sunlight streamed through the window, falling on the table, on his arm, on the side of his face as he looked down at his book. I couldn't help but stare for a few extra seconds. He sensed it and looked up. What is it? I smiled. I just think you look really nice. The tips of his ears turned bright red. He lowered his head and pretended to read, but the smile on his lips was impossible to hide. Seeing his red ears, my heart melted like salts of ice cream. That afternoon, we stayed at the library until closing time. The sky was almost dark. We walked home side by side as the streetlights flickered on one by one, stretching our shadows out long. I'll walk you home, he said. You don't have to. It's not far. I'll walk you home. He repeated it, his tone leaving no room for argument. I didn't refuse secretly. I was happy about it. When we reached my building, I stopped and so did he. Here we are, I said. Yeah. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. I turned and took 2 steps and suddenly remembered something and turned back. He was still standing there, looking surprised to see me turn around. What's wrong? I took a deep breath, stood on my tiptoes, and quickly pecked him on the cheek. The movement was as fast as a dragonfly touching water, but the moment my lips met his skin, I could feel how warm his cheek was. "Thanks for walking me home," I mumbled, my face burning, and I turned and ran all the way up to the 3rd floor before leaning against the hallway wall to catch my breath. My heart was pounding so fast it felt like it might leap out of my throat. After a while, my phone buzzed with a message from him. "Suwon? Yeah? You kissed me just now? Yeah? So?" I just wanted to say, "I'm definitely not sleeping tonight." I hugged my phone and laughed out loud in the dim hallway. 8. That summer of ambiguous feelings and racing hearts was like an unfinished poem. I remembered every frame clearly: the way he looked playing basketball, sweat glistening in the sun, the slight frown on his face when he concentrated on a problem, the gentle smile when he waved goodbye under the strudel twilight. Our relationship went through a lot later: sweet moments and fights, closeness and distance. But the seed planted that summer, that feeling of a crush, those careful shirtan, that wholehearted like, remained in my memory forever. That was the most beautiful time of my youth, because during that time, there was a boy who put a warm bottle of milk on my desk every morning, who draped his jacket over me when I was cold, who held me steady on a crowded bus so I wouldn't fall, who looked me in the eye and told me he liked me. That feeling of being carefully liked, of a heart that wouldn't stop racing, but smiling just at the sight of someone, that was probably the most precious thing about being young. Here is the continuation of the English translation, picking up from chapter 9. 9. The days after we got together flew by so fast that summer vacation arrived before I had time to think. On the last day of final exams, he asked me to meet him at the small park behind the school. When I got there, he was already sitting on a swing. Seeing me approach, he stood up and walked a few steps toward me. "How did you do?" he asked. "All right, I couldn't solve the last big math problem." "I couldn't solve that one either," he smiled. "We're in the same boat." We strolled through the park as the sunset painted everything gold. He walked beside me with his hands in his pockets, occasionally glancing sideways at me before looking away, a faint smile playing on his lips. "What are your plans for the summer?" I asked. "I might go back to my hometown for a while. Hasn't been well, then my mom wants me to stay with her for a bit." "Oh." I tried to sound casual, but something inside me felt suddenly hollow. "What's wrong? You don't want me to go?" He stopped walking and turned to face me. "No, of course you should go be with your grandmother." I kept my head down, but my voice wasn't as cheerful as before. He reached out and ruffled my hair gently, tenderly. "I'll only be gone 2 weeks. When I come back, I'll spend every day with you, okay? Who said I want you every day?" I dodged his hand, but my lips had already curved upward. 2 weeks, not too long. The day he left, I went to the station to see him off. He carried his backpack and a bag of snacks his mother had packed for him. "Message me when you get there," I said. "Okay. Take good care of your grandmother. Okay? And then?" "And what?" He looked at me smiling. I shook my head. He set down his bag, stepped forward, and gave me a quick hug. It was very brief, maybe only 2 or 3 seconds, but it felt like time had stopped. His chin rested on my shoulder, his breath warm against my neck, carrying his familiar scent. "Wait for me," he whispered in my ear. "Okay?" He let me go, picked up his bag, and walked through the ticket gate. He looked back at me, smiled, and disappeared into the crowd. I stood there watching the stream of people, sweet because of that hug, sour because of that hug. Sour didn't see him for the whole weeks. During that time apart, we messaged each other every day. He sent me pictures of the jujube tree in his grandmother's yard, the small river at the village entrance, the beautiful sunsets in the evening sky. I sent him photos of the new books I'd bought, the terrible breakfasts I'd made, the stray cat that was always sleeping under my building. One night, he called me. His voice was quieter than usual. He said his grandmother wasn't doing well and he might have to stay longer. I told him it was fine, he should stay with her. He was silent for a few seconds, then said something that made my heart race. "Suwon, I miss you." The line was very quiet. His voice came through clearly, like a stone dropped into still water, sending ripples outward. "Me too," I whispered. "How much?" "Just, I miss you." He laughed, a low, muffled laugh through the receiver, like the resonance of a cello. I laughed too. The two of us laughed on the phone for a while without saying anything, but the feeling was fuller than any conversation. He came back a week later than planned. He didn't tell me beforehand. That day when I got home from school and walked toward my building, I saw someone leaning against the wall by the entrance, holding a cup of milk and looking down at his phone. "There's a Jen." He looked up. When his eyes found mine, His mouth slowly curved into a smile. His eyes were so bright as if they held an entire sky full of stars. What are you doing here? I stammered, not even remembering to take off my backpack. So I came back early. He said it lightly, as if taking a 4-hour bus ride just to see me was the most normal thing in the world. He handed me the milk tea from my favorite shop, 30% sugar, less ice, so when I took it, my fingers brushed against his. They were a little cold. I didn't know how long he'd been waiting. Had you been waiting long? I asked. Not long, but the tea was barely cool anymore, and the condensation on the cup had almost dried. I looked at him. He stood there in the sunset light, his white t-shirt billowing slightly in the wind. His hair was a little longer than before, the strands over his forehead, nearly covering his eyebrows, but his eyes were the same bright, looking at me as if I were the only person in the world. You got 10, I said. You got 10, he said. We looked at each other and burst out laughing at the same time. That evening, he didn't trudge home. We sat in the small garden downstairs for a long time. He told me his grandmother was doing much better. He told me the watermelons in his hometown were huge and sweet. He told me how he'd go up to the rooftop every night to look at the stars. There aren't as many lights there, he said, tilting his head back to look at the sky. The city's light pollution was so bad that only a few sparse stars were visible. Whenever I saw a really bright one, I think I wonder if Suwon is looking at the same star. I didn't say anything. I lowered my head and drank my milk tea, my eyes singing. What's wrong? He looked down at me. I sniffled. You're good with words. I meant it. He looked into my eyes, completely serious. It's not about being good with words. I really miss you. That summer night, the breeze was very light. The gardenias in the garden were in full bloom, their fragrance drifting over in waves. He sat side by side on a bench, shoulders touching, neither speaking. He held out his hand, palm up between us. I looked at it, then slowly placed my hand in his, palm to palm. Warmth spread from his hand to mine, from my fingertips to my wrist. In that moment, I thought there is probably nothing happier in this world than being genuinely liked by someone. 10. In the second half of summer vacation, we saw each other almost every day. He took me to the new ice dessert shop on the street. We ordered a large bowl of mango shaved ice to share. He scooped up a big spoonful and fed it to me. I opened my mouth and took it. It was so cold that my forehead wrinkled. Across the table, he laughed so hard he nearly fell over. You did that on purpose. I glared at him. I wouldn't dare. He scooped another spoonful, much smaller this time, and even blew on it before bringing it to my lips. Here, this one's not cold. I took it skeptically. It wasn't cold. The shaved ice melted in my mouth, releasing the sweetness of mango. It was delicious. Good? He asked. Good. Then one more bite. We finished the entire bowl like that, a spoonful for you, a spoonful for me. At the bottom, there was a little melted liquid left. He picked up the bowl and drank it in one go, adding a bit of mango syrup on the corner of his mouth. He licked his lips but missed. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a napkin and reached over to wipe it for him. He froze. I froze too. My hand stopped at the corner of his mouth, my fingertip touching his skin. It was warm. He looked at me. I looked at him. Time seemed to pause. Thanks, he said first, his voice a little rough. You're welcome. I quickly pulled my hand back and lowered my head, pretending to tidy the napkins on the table. My heart was pounding like a drum. When we came out of the shop, the sky was almost dark, and there were fewer people on the street. He walked on my left as usual, but this time, he draped his arm over my shoulder loosely, casually, but I could tell he was testing the waters, watching to see if I would pull away. I didn't. His arm tightened slightly, drawing me closer to him. I leaned against his side, breathing in the clean scent of his laundry detergent. Suwon, have you ever thought about the future? He asked. What kind of future? Our future. He said it quietly, but his tone was serious. After high school. Further than that. I didn't answer right away. I thought about that question many times, but I had never dared to think too far ahead. Not because I didn't trust him, but because I wasn't sure I trusted time. Time had a way of washing things away, of taking people with it. I'd seen too many couples break up after graduation. I was afraid we might become one of them. I've thought about it, I finally said, but I'd rather focus on the present. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said something I remembered for a long time. I think we can go far. Why are you so sure? Because you're the first person I've ever wanted to be serious about. He wasn't looking at me when he said it. He was looking at the road ahead. The strudel toy fell on his face, flickering. At the kind of serious that's just for fun, the kind that means I want to stay together. My eyes felt hot. I reached out and held his hand. He looked down at our joined hands and tightened his fingers around mine. That summer seemed to stretch on forever, long enough to feel like time had stopped. We could stay in those days forever, seeing each other every day, holding hands every day, saying goodbye downstairs every day, texting until we fell asleep every night. The days were simple and repetitive, but because he was the one beside me, each day felt new. Each day was worth looking forward to. 11. Then came senior year. Senior year was completely different. The pressure of schoolwork suddenly intensified. The atmosphere in the classroom grew tense. A countdown calendar appeared next to the blackboard, bright red numbers shrinking day by day. I could saw it hanging over our heads. We had much less time together. In the past, we chat between classes and pass notes. Now we barely had time to look up from our work. At lunch, we'd meet briefly. He'd ask how my day was. I'd say fine, just too much homework. He'd nod and say the same. It didn't feel great. It was like something had come between us. Not that our feelings had faded, but life had squeezed out all the extra space we used to have for each other. 1 month. I did terribly on the monthly exam. I scored just over 90 on math, my worst grade since starting high school. When the results came out, I put my head down on my desk and didn't want to talk. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Wen Xiaoran tried to comfort me, saying one bad grade wasn't the end of the world. But I couldn't hear her. After school, Liu Zijian was waiting for me in the hallway. When he saw me come out, he walked over and took my hand. I heard you didn't do well on the math exam, he said. Yeah? I didn't want to talk about it. Let's take a walk, he said. I nodded and followed him out of the school gate. He didn't lead me toward home. Instead, he turned down a small side path that led to the hill behind the school. By the time we reached the top, the sky was almost dark. The wind was strong up there, whipping our hair around. This is where I come when I'm feeling down, he said, standing at the top with the wind pulling at his clothes. When you stand here and look down, nothing seems as big anymore. I stood beside him and looked down. The school buildings, the sports ground, the traffic on the road, they all looked tiny. The wind blew cool against my face, scattering some of the feelings that had been clogging up my chest. One bad exam doesn't mean anything, he said. You know the material, you just weren't in good form this time. But senior year, every exam matters. My voice was muffled. It matters, yes. But that doesn't mean one bad grade is the end of the world. He turned to face me. So-Won, you're the smartest girl I know. You're much stronger than you think. He stood there in the fading light, the orange-red sunset behind him like a painting. Do you believe me? Believe you about what? Do you believe I can get into a good university? He smiled. My grades are way worse than yours, but I haven't given up, because I know that as long as I don't give up, there's still a chance. So don't you give up either, okay? I looked at him. His eyes held a light, not the light of the sunset, but something coming from inside him. That light had a power. It made you believe what he said. It made you believe the future could be good, that everything would be okay. I nodded. He reached out and ruffled my hair, smiling. That's the So-Won I know. That night, he walked me home. At my doorstep, he held my hand and didn't let go. Senior year is going to be hard, but I'll be right there with you. Yeah? If you're tired, tell me. If you're sad, tell me. I'll listen. Okay? Then he paused. No matter how busy things get, I'm not going anywhere. Don't be afraid. Finally, the tears came. That sad tears. My feeling of being caught, held steady by someone. That feeling was more reassuring than any sweet words, because you knew that no matter what happened, there was someone behind you. He wouldn't change. He reached down and wiped my tears, his thumb brushing gently across my cheek. His touch was as light as if he were touching a flower. Stop crying, he joked. If you keep going, I'll cry too. I laughed through my tears and playfully hit him on the shoulder. Senior year was hard. Really hard. Endless practice tests. Endless exams, the countdown numbers shrinking day by day, the pressure mounting. But because he was there, those difficult days didn't feel quite so difficult. Every morning, there was still warm milk and breakfast on my desk. He arrived at school earlier than before, just to have everything ready before I got there. During self-study, he passed me notes, not the flirtatious kind anymore, but words of encouragement. You can do it, keep going, be happy today. Sometimes, when I was studying late into the night, he'd text me, don't stay up too late. Get some sleep. I'd reply, you too. And neither of us would sleep, we'd both keep studying. But knowing the other person's light was also on made my heart feel steadier. Back then, I thought the best version of loving someone is probably growing better together, at draining each other, at holding each other back, but supporting each other, encouraging each other, reaching out a hand when the other was about to fall, say, "I'm still here. Let's walk this road together." 12. The day the college entrance exam results came out, I was napping at home when my phone started buzzing nonstop. Half asleep, I grabbed it. The screen was filled with messages from Lin Xiao, ran one after another, like a bombardment. "They're out. Have you checked?" My hands are shaking. I'm so nervous. I woke up completely. My heart hammered as I opened the results page with trembling fingers. I typed my test registration number wrong twice. The third time, I got it right. The few seconds while the page loaded felt like centuries. When the score appeared on the screen, I froze. 30 points higher than my best mock exam. 20 points higher than I decimated. I stared at the screen for several seconds to make sure my eyes weren't playing tricks on me. My mother ran out of the kitchen, spatula still in hand, her face full of alarm. "What is it?" "Mom, I got the score I needed." My mother froze for a second, then her eyes welled up. She forgot to put down the spatula and just hugged me. I laughed and cried on her shoulder, my mind a jumble of excitement and disbelief. My phone buzzed again. It was Luzigen calling. "Did you check?" His voice sounded excited too, but he was trying to play it cool. I checked. My voice was so loud I startled myself. "What about you?" "I checked too." He paused. Higher than I expected. He named his score. After hearing it, my mind went blank for a second. It was several dozen points higher than any mock exam he'd ever taken, so high it seemed impossible. "Are you sure you didn't misread?" I blurted out. "I checked 3 times. He laughed a laugh full of relief. "Suwon, I did it. You really did it." My eyes welled up again. "Luzigen, you're amazing." "It's not that I'm amazing." His voice dropped, taking on a tender seriousness. "You've been helping me, encouraging me all along. Without you, I never could have gotten this score." "Don't get all sentimental." I sniffled, but inside, I was deeply moved. "I mean it." His tone was completely serious. "You know what my grades were like in first year. Then I decided I wanted to go to the same city as you. I told myself I had to give it everything." He wanted to go to the same city as me. He'd said it many times, but every time I heard it, a wave of warmth washed over me. He wasn't just saying it. He really worked toward that goal. He arrived at school earlier than me and left later than me. He did problems until his fingers developed calluses. He studied until his voice went hoarse. He wasn't naturally one of those super smart students, but he worked incredibly hard, so hard that even the teachers were surprised by his improvement. "So where are you applying?" I asked him. "Wherever you go, I go," he said matter-of-factly. "Your score is high enough for a better school. There's no better school without you." He answered without hesitation. I held the phone and couldn't speak. Tears fell silently. He was quiet for a few seconds, then gave a soft laugh. "No," I sniffled. "You're at home. There's no wind inside. None of your business." He laughed a low laugh that came through the receiver, as if he were right next to my ear. That afternoon, the sun was beautiful. I sat on the windowsill with the tattered college application guide spread across my lap, my phone pressed to my ear, listening to him talk about application strategies. Outside, the cicadas were loud. The sunlight made the ivy on my windowsill shine. That afternoon was one of the calmest and happiest in my memory. 13. The days after we submitted our applications felt like stolen time. The pressure of the exams was gone. No more waking up early. No more endless problem sets. No more memorization. I could do whatever I wanted. It felt like a bird that had been caged for a long time, suddenly set free. The air itself tasted sweet. We saw each other almost every day. He took me to so many places we'd wanted to go, but never had time for the botanical garden on the outskirts of town, the newly opened amusement park, the long walking path by the river. Every day brought a new place, new scenery, new memories. One day, he said he wanted to take me somewhere special, but refused to tell me where. We took a long bus ride from the city center to the suburbs, from the suburbs to the countryside. The scenery outside the window changed from high-rises to farmland to villages. "Where are we going?" I asked for the 4th time. "Soon," he said, giving me the same Fouye answer for the 4th time. The bus stopped at a small town. He took my hand and led me off, lined with old brick and tile houses covered in lush green ivy. "This is my grandmother's house," he said. I froze. "Your grandmother's house? Why are you bringing me to your grandmother's house?" "She wants to meet you," he said it casually, but the tips of his ears were red. "What?" I nearly jumped. "She wants to meet me. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I didn't prepare anything. Look what I'm wearing." He looked down at my outfit, white t-shirt, jeans, my hair in a messy ponytail, then looked back up at me. You look great, he said. That's not the point. This is my first time meeting your grandmother. I can't show up empty-handed. I've got it. He pulled a paper bag from his backpack. Inside were a box of pastries and a bag of fruit. I prepared it for you. I looked at the bag in his hand, then at him. Something swelled in my chest. He had thought of everything. When did you get this? I asked. Last night, he said. My grandmother loves the pastries from this shop. I went specially to buy them. I took the bag and lowered my head, saying nothing. He leaned in and looked at my face. What's wrong? Crying again? No. I turned my head away. I just say, you're so thoughtful. Of course. I have to take care of my girlfriend's business. He sounded a little smug, but his eyes were tender. Grandma's house had a small courtyard with a large osmanthus tree in the middle. Potted plants and a bamboo lounge chair sat under the tree. Grandma was sitting in the chair, shelling beans. When she saw us come in, she set down the beans and stood up. Grandma, this is Suwan. Jen stood beside me, sounding nervous but trying to actual. Hello, Grandma. I bowed and handed her the paper bag. Jen bought these for you. He said you like them. Grandma took the bag. Her smile so wide her eyes disappeared into crescents. This child is so thoughtful. Come in, sit down. It's hot outside. Grandma was much kinder than I'd imagined. Her hair was white, and the wrinkles on her face were like the wings of a tree, recording the passage of time. She took my hand and led me inside, poured me a cup of cold tea, and brought out a plate of cut watermelon, all the while saying, Eat more, eat more. Jen has been saying since he was little that when he grew up, he'd only want the best. Grandma said, sitting across from me and beaming. Now that I see you, I think he's found her. Grandma Jen tried to interrupt, embarrassed. What? Did I say something wrong? Grandma gave him a look, then turned back to me. Suwon, let me tell you, this boy has never been able to lie. If he says you're wonderful, then you must truly be wonderful. I stole a glance at Jen. He was drinking his tea with his head down, his ears so red they looked like they might bleed. I couldn't help but smile, but his eyes were full of affection. We stayed at Grandma's all afternoon and didn't leave until after dinner. As we were leaving, Grandma held my hand and said, Suwon, come visit often. I'll make you good food. I said yes, I would. On the bus ride back, I leaned my head on his shoulder and watched the darkening sky outside the window. Your grandmother is so nice, I said. He looked down at me. She told me to be good to you. So you heard her. Be good to me. I'm not good enough already? He asked with a smile. You could always be better, I teased. He put his arm around my shoulder and pulled me closer. All right, I'll try harder. The bus swayed gently as we drove. Outside, the streetlights flickered on one by one, their light falling into the carriage in shifting patterns. I leaned against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. This moment is perfect. Here is the continuation and completion of the English translation, picking up from chapter 14. The day the acceptance letters arrived, I was at his house, and when the doorbell rang, his mother answered and came back with a craft pay, her envelope. She glanced at it, then called out to Jen, Your acceptance letter is here. He rushed out of his room, and I followed close behind. His hands were trembling as he opened the envelope. It took him a while to tear it open. When he pulled out the letter inside, he took a deep breath before looking at it. What does it say? I was hopping up and down with anxiety. He stared at the paper for 3 seconds. Then he whirled around and lifted me off my feet in a hug. I got in, he shouted, loud enough for the whole building to hear. His excitement was contagious. I hugged him back, laughing, but tears were streaming down my face. His mother stood nearby watching us, her own eyes red, murmuring, Wonderful, wonderful. A little while later, my phone rang. My mother called to say my acceptance letter had arrived. My school was in the same city as his. In fact, the 2 campuses were only 2 streets apart. After I hung up, I looked at him. He looked at me. We both smiled at the same time. 2 streets. Yeah. Walking distance. Yeah. He pulled me into his arms and held me very steamy. My cheek pressed against his chest, and I could hear his heart pounding like a drum. Suwon, we really did it. His voice was muffled above my head. Yeah. In that moment, I felt that all the hard work had paid off. The late nights of senior year, the endless problem sets, the tears we'd shed, all of it, every bit of struggle and perseverance, had been worth it. Not just because we'd gotten into good universities, but because we hadn't given up on each other. That summer, through effort and determination, we had earned a chance to stay together. 15. The night before we were both supposed to leave for university. We walked along the river for a very long time. September nights had already turned cool. The river breeze carried moisture, damp against our faces. He wore a dark blue hoodie, zipped all the way up, his hands in his pockets. I walked beside him, my shoulder occasionally brushing against his arm. Leaving tomorrow, I said. Yeah? All packed. All packed. He paused. All packed too. Then neither of us spoke quietly. As trails hid by the river stretched our shadows out long and thin. Occasionally a late-night jogger would pass, by footsteps approaching then fading. When we reached the bridge we often visited, he stopped. Suwon. Yeah? I had something to tell you. I turned to face him. The bridge lights fell on his face. His expression was serious and I suddenly felt a little nervous. Go ahead. From first year until now. We've been together for over 2 years. He looked at me, speaking quietly but clearly. In these 2 years, you've made me a better person. I never used to think I could get into a good university. I never used to think I could work as hard for anyone. You showed me that effort really pays off. You showed me that liking someone can make you so strong. My eyes started to sting. Tomorrow we're going to a new city to start a new life, he continued. I don't know what we'll face, but I know who I want to face it with. Suwon, I want to be with you. I just saying that I really want to go far with you. He took a small box out of his pocket and opened it. Inside was a thin silver chain with a tiny star pendant. It's not expensive, he said, the tips of his ears reddening again, but I wanted to give it to you. This star represents the first night I saw you. That night I was on my balcony looking at the stars, and I saw one that was especially bright. This girl is just like that star bright, impossible to look away from. Finally, the tears fell. He reached out and wiped them away with his thumb, his touch light as if he were handling something precious. Don't cry, he said softly. Every time I see you cry, it breaks my heart. Then don't say things like that, I sniffled. Say such sentimental things, of course I'm going to cry. He smiled, took the necklace, and stepped behind me to put it on. When his fingers touched the back of my neck, they were cool and slightly ticklish. I flinched a little. He fastened the clasp, stepped back to look, and nodded in satisfaction. Beautiful. I looked down at the star pendant on my chest. It was silver tiny, glinting with a soft light under the street lamp. Luzi-chan. Yeah? I have something to tell you too. Go ahead. I took a deep breath and looked into his eyes. The day you transferred into our class in first year, when you sat diagonally behind me and I turned around to look at you that one glance, I thought turn around say thought, this boy has such bright eyes. His smile is so nice. I didn't know what would happen after that, but I knew I wanted to look at you a few more times. He looked at me, his eyes shining. Then you started buying me milk, passing me notes, walking me to my dorm, holding me steady on the bus, telling me you liked me. I remember everything. And every single thing made me like you more. My tears were falling again as I spoke. In these 2 years you show me what it feels like to be genuinely liked by someone. It feels so good that I want to keep it forever. So, I looked at him seriously. You have to stay with me too. Otherwise, who's going to buy me milk? Who's going to pass me notes? Who's going to walk me home? He laughed a laugh that crinkled his eyes and pulled me into his arms. Forever, he said above my head. Forever and ever. The river breeze blew past, carrying moisture and the sound of distant music. The lights from both banks reflected on the water surface, shimmering like a river of scattered stars. I leaned against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, feeling the warmth of his body, and thought in this moment, the whole world is ours. That night, he walked me to my building. Just as I turned to go inside, he called my name. Suwon? Yeah? He walked over, bent down and gently pressed a kiss to my forehead. It was very light, like a butterfly landing on a petal, carrying the warmth of his lips and the faint tremor of his breath. Good night, he said, stepping back. Good night. My face red, I turned and went inside. I looked out the window. He was still downstairs, looking up toward me. I waved at him. He waved back, smiled, then turned and slowly walked away. I leaned against the hallway wall, my hand pressed to my forehead. The warmth of his lips still lingered there. My heart was racing so fast it felt like it might burst from my chest. I couldn't keep the smile off my face. The little star pendant rested against my collarbone, cool to the touch as if it would always remember the temperature of this night. Epilogue. And so the story of that summer came to a close, but our story continued in a new city, at new schools, on new streets, through new mornings and evenings. The ambiguity and heart-pounding excitement of youth eventually grew into a steady choice and a lasting companionship. That was the luckiest thing that ever happened to me. The end.